64 Tacos Podcasts presents Is This Song Good? This is episode 47, Radiohead, Climbing Up the Walls.
Okay, welcome back to the Is This Song Good podcast, the 64 Tacos podcast. This week we're continuing the season 4 deep cuts theme, and we're going to be doing the song Climbing Up the Walls by Radiohead. It's from the OK Computer album that came out in 1997. That album had, I believe, 4 singles, Paranoid Android, Karma Police, Lucky, and No Surprises. And this, so I listened to this album a lot after I bought it for, I think, probably Paranoid Android. And I absolutely love all the songs on this album, but this one in particular really stood out and got a lot of repeat listens from me. And the best way that I can describe it is the feeling I get is that I get like brain raped every time I listen to it. If that's a little too of an extreme way of describing it, I'd say maybe it's sort of a slow decay into mental instability. At least that's sort of what it feels like, or what I would imagine it would feel like for somebody who's actually going through that. There's just so much like layering going on. There's a lot of ambient sounds, doubled vocals, and then it sort of builds up and then explodes into this climactic thing. So yeah, what do you guys think about it?
This, our first three songs here in this new series are from 3 of my favorite albums. All from the 90s, of course, because that's our generation of music.
That's the only era that matters.
The only era that matters. And it's always when I'm asked, what's your favorite Radiohead album? Because people come up to me on the streets and ask me that. I have to decide between the Bends and OK Computer, and it's usually OK Computer, and I feel like Pablo Honey was their pop album, and then the Bends, they went weird, and then OK Computer, they doubled down on the weird, and man, they came out with something amazing. It surprises me that any of these songs are singles, if I'm being honest, but I love every single one of them, and I couldn't tell you whether I like Climbing Up the Walls better than any of the others, but it's so good. The whole album is so good. So it's hard for me to think of any of these as deep cuts. I don't know, Dan, what do you think?
Just real briefly, the singles were on this album, OK Computer, Paranoid Android, which is a super weird song, even though it's one of their most famous songs. Karma Police,
even weirder music video.
Yes, very, very memorable, very memorable. Karma Police, which ends in sort of everything falling apart, and then 2 like slower songs, Lucky and No Surprises. But like, what do you choose as a single from this album? Like, they're all great songs, and they all have this incredible atmosphere. Like, I guess Electioneering is the most poppy type song.
Maybe.
Let Down kind of is too, and I'm actually surprised that one wasn't a single, because I kind of thought that it was.
If Dave hadn't chosen a song from this album, that's the one I would have chosen. I love that song. I just love the layering.
Zach chose this one, but yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, if Dave hadn't chosen it and Zach hadn't chosen it,
yes.
Anyhow, the upshot is they're all great songs, but none of them are exactly radio friendly. But Climbing Up the Walls is it's amazing how well it captures this sort of like creepy horror movie vibe without really like, going too far in that direction or having those traditional sort of sounds that you would think about. The lyrics are just like disturbing without being like graphic or, too graphic, I guess. 15 blows to the back of your head's a little, violent, but I love the way that, and I noticed it first on this album that Thom Yorke can really sort of like deal in sort of non-pop or non-pleasant topics. There's definitely examples of that in Paranoid Android, and in here he does a great job of just sort of putting you off and sort of alarming you. It's I don't know. It's you wouldn't think just being able to do that would be that interesting to me, but I don't know. I love it. The song has a really slow sort of setup, just a kind of an acousticy sort of beginning. And then it starts bringing in, some really dissonant guitar, but it doesn't really explode till the end. And that brings up another thing that we noticed here. And that's that all three of these songs sort of have a sort of build up and wait until there's an actual, sort of climax where the band sort of cuts loose kind of, on a different level. And it does a great job of that. I don't know if Zach, I'm sure you remember, we used to sit in your spare room and play this song. And then just, once we were through the lyrics and, just with two guitars, we just, take turns just, making mediocre, solo-y sounds because it's sort of the back end of the song is just, it's just sort of wide open.
Big cacophony with guitars. Yeah. Yeah.
And it was so much fun, because the song just releases completely. And, Johnny Greenwood is so good at creating these weird guitar tones, like soundscapes, and this is
and the strings too. So he
they bring in the
strings
production. Yep. Another thing he does quite well.
It's just so haunting. I mean, that's the best word I can describe it. That, like you were saying, Thom Yorke, he sort of tapped into something very, very horrific and haunting and brought it to the forefront. And this is one of the songs that really shines for that. And it's like, even with his vocals, like I think he's doing doubled vocals here and there. Mm-hmm. And I think he's singing slightly different things, which makes you not sure what you're actually hearing. Like, it's not throughout the whole thing, but there are certain little parts, little lines where you're like, did I hear that or did I hear that? And that's where it's like, it makes me think I'm going nuts when I'm listening to the song. It's like it sounds different every single time I hear it, depending on what part my brain is pulling out of it.
Because you usually are really trying to, when you double vocals, you're going for an effect where they're doubled exactly, and it adds a sort of fullness to it, and it's almost like you don't realize what's happening, right? But yeah, it's. I think you're right. I think it's a deliberate sort of like have a little variation, which just again unsettles you, and then there's a bunch of filters on the vocals to make it sort of like more distant, and which just adds to that sort of haunting effect. And I think haunting is the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
Yep. Masterfully done by those Brits.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So if nobody has anything else to say, what do we have next week?
So next week, we're going to change gears quite a bit. We're going to head back to the 70s. We're going to take a look at a song off of Aerosmith's first album called Move In Out. So we'll see you then.
All right.
I caught it on audio.